the ninjas in pajamas, please.
We get 3 series of them, you know, where they're gonna live rent-free in our heads for a little while. However, as we really focus on the draft, Azir and Varus were taken out.
There it is.
Rise that you've been looking for, Alk, finally shows up. First pick for BLG.
Whoa.
Whoa,
This
whoa.
is an instant
Okay.
slam.
Okay. My bad.
So, yeah, we're getting Renata and Kalista, a good pairing, especially if there's going to be low mobility from BLG, which we can see with the Rise. Range is not going to be the biggest factor. Potentially a Xayah and Rakan angle as a answer from Viper and On. And I think for JDG, I'm still looking at some of these other pairings. I mean, you have to be wondering, if you're going to play Xayah, do you really want to play into Anivia potentially? The short answer to that is no, but if you are BLG, we've seen them take bigger swings here in the draft.
And it's 2 very common pairings in the bot lane, just immediately snagged up here. I think a lot of times when you get down to the nitty-gritty picks in a draft, particularly with the addition of Fearless, bot lane is really heavily prioritized simply because there are less viable champions in the AD carry role compared to everywhere else usually in Summoner's Rift, or just in the department of position. So bot lane's going to be secured, and now when you've got things like the Xayah and the Rakan, I do think that having extra bits of lockdown is imperative for JDG. So picking up that Wukong, it's not the Kha'Zix that we were, silently hoping for, Ulk, but it does achieve the ability to at least get some disruption across in these team fights.
I'll give Dia some credit here. I do think Nocturne is really disgusting here for BLG. Not only just the interaction it has, but I think that if we're talking about jungle support pairings, which have become more and more important throughout the series, Nocturne Rakan is extremely annoying to deal with. Just the battle dance, being able to have Rakan leap across the screen alongside the Nocturne when they dive is always super deadly. So we're going to see a big focus from jungle, I think, here coming through from JDG, as I don't think there's very much worry about specifically Xiaoxu's pool from what we have seen so far. I think 3 games in a row now, Bin has completely handled him.
And the Fear taken away, and the Cassante that you mentioned removed, but this time by BLG. They of course had the option were they to remove something else to take it first round, but given that they can't handle it, they don't want to give it over to JDG either. Malphite the ban. A Malphite also a pretty decent jungler to take out. You mentioned how powerful Nocturne can be. Malphite performs, it's going to sound troll, but a very similar function in terms of making JDG's life difficult.
Press R, go in. Same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think also kind of jumping onto the Nocturne train that I am glad we are having that take off on the station is the fact that Rakan really, I feel, isn't the best champion when he is sole engaged. Usually he works really well when he is able to bounce off of another person, is able to kind of latch on to another form of engage with all of that mobility and then throw down his CC as kind of a 1-2 punch. So Nocturne being able to ult him, Rakan being able to follow up, I think would be sufficient enough for BLG to get fights started and to really open up for the Xayah and this Rise to start dealing damage.
So I think a Yorick angle for JDG is kind of lights out. I mean, there's no Jax, there's no Mbessa or Gnar anymore. Sion's gone as well. I think Yorick is really well set up going in. And there's that Anivia. Again, classical matchup going into the Rise. I think it is a much better spread than the Cassiopeia that we've seen kind of rise and immediately fall back down in terms of win rate. So JDG, they have a really aggressive 2v2 bottom lane. We now have a lot of disruption, but I think this comp outside of the bottom lane is going to take a lot of time to end up kind of get things going, especially with Wukong in comparison. Gwen's the blind. I don't think Shun is playing Gwen jungle. I have seen very rare instances where they're going to give this guy an AP threat in the jungle, so makes sense.
Yeah, this definitely functions with Qiyana as an option here. I will say I'm scared when it comes to Bin's Gwen. Guy has the most solo kills in this split of the LPL so far. And Gwen is a champion that can and will solo kill you, especially the way that we've seen the matchup go already. I'm struggling for answers for JDG, and it looks like they are too. Kennen is an option, but I mean, anything's an option.
I think Kennen into Gwen is essentially like a knockout immediately, because that lane is not super fun. I think that they're maybe a bit more afraid of just stacking on top of potentially Rakan and having this Qiyana do the pushback with the supreme display of talent, but I think JDG have all the right tools when we talk about a later game instance in this game. 3 items is scary when you have a Rise on the opposite side, but Anivia, I think the wall, just, again, any piece of terrain that you can get from a basic ability, I'm going to take it any day of the week. This is super dangerous, I think, for BLG to play. And again, this is a composition where there's not a ton of frontline, and the engage from BLG, I think, is a bit softer. It is point and click with the Rise Rune Prison, but it's Qiyana and it's Rakan. I don't like it.
Yeah, we didn't really get that 1-2 punch that we were kind of hoping for with things like the Nocturne that we were anticipating to maybe be the pickup here for Xun. If anything, this puts a lot more pressure on Xun to perform. Qiyana, a very high economy jungler, so we need to be seeing him have the proactive plays throughout this early game. I do think that both junglers have been very good at understanding their assignments, especially if they're on a timer to make things happen. We did see that from JunJia in game number 3, which is what led to that Kog'Maw scaling up and allowing for that bridge to kind of be built from an early game threat to a late game threat. It's kind of have to be a similar thing coming through here for BLG, and I think that Xun has to be the guy building the bridge over toward the late game threats of the Rise and the Xayah.
We really got to look out for what Vampire is able to give us in this game as well. Gala so frequently leaps on forward, but one leap too far on Ballista could cost JDG this series.
Beautiful. Getting more Gyos. And real quickly before we get into this game, I will say, as a longtime fan of the LPL, and especially of BLG, this feels like sacrilege watching On play Xayah Rakan with someone else. Their duo with Elkanon, their 2v2 with Rakan Xayah, some of the scariest in the world. So to see it now, sucks. This is their first Xayah Rakan of the season. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more of these 2v2, but yeah, we're already seeing a lot of strong pathing, and already Xun, not even doing his bot side camps, immediately crossing over because he knows Wukong, this clear is incredibly slow.
Yeah, and Wukong, a champion that isn't the greatest pre-level 6 or pre-Trinity Force, so just being able to stunt that a little bit is going to be a big deal for setting behind JunJia's ability to be proactive around the map on this pick. And also splitting the map could give Xun potentially an angle to look for a bot lane gank here. We were anticipating that Gala and Vampire would have priority in this lane just because they're stronger in the 2v2, especially in the early levels. So that does give a very unique opportunity over to the Qiyana to maybe try and look for some type of a punish, though JunJia has already spotted out that his camps are taken.
What is Xun doing right now? Because it looks like he's waiting for their bot lane to show. He's maybe waiting for some more information. He doesn't know where JunJia is. He knows maybe he's on his top side, but he hasn't crossed over.
HongQ should be the recipient of a quick gank right now. Does still have egg available, so even as he gets popped into that underneath the tower, it's not too bad, but he did expend the flash, and so Xun does get money for his time. Yeah.
Egg is usually really good for Anivia, not just because it's a get-out-of-jail-free card a lot of time. Well, Vampire might have to hold that. Seems like they're fine. But usually when you pop Egg, you get a lot of HP back, so it kind of is like a mini recall in a lot of instances. I like the look there from Xun, but this is another instance where we're seeing him play for his lanes early on, give away some of his own individual lead that he might be able to gain if he continues to be really focused on his clear as Qiyana, but setting up his lanes, again, you have Knight as your mid laner. A lot of the times that's going to be a free championship in the bag.
Oh yeah, Knight definitely going to be able to capitalize off of the no flash from HongQ, but Xun using his flash I don't think is going to be very easily punishable by the side of JDG, just because they have a very stark lack of reliable crowd control. I think you've got like a knock-up from the... Hang on, speaking of Zahan.
Come on!
Well, that's just rude. Knight getting ganked in the mid lane as well, since we already know where the BLG jungler is. Bit of an awkward spot for him, and for Xiaoxu, things have not gotten a whole lot better. This is a full-on dive by BLG. Bin collects first blood, and this Gwen gets even scarier.
And that's just a really unfortunate flash timer there for Xiaoxu. Uses that summoner to try and get a little bit of space, but it's much too late, and he ends up expending that for really no reason. So BLG gonna maybe be able to punish that later down the line, especially with the wave now pushing back toward the side of BLG. Shun could look to revisit in the next few minutes, but does also want to get toward the bot side. We've got the first dragon coming up in less than a minute now, and we've talked about the importance of this objective all throughout the series, and the trend just keeps on setting itself, frankly, that whoever controls the dragon controls the universe.
I mean, you're playing Kalista Renata. We need to be taking this objective. I think on spawn, you see that JunJia does have a fairly nice lead for himself. It isn't reflected in the goal difference between the two because of the assist that Shun does have, but just having access to more camps means that he's going to be a lot quicker on the play to get to level 6. Xiaoxu again.
This gets so much worse. There's no flash on this Zahen. He's just gone. It is another kill to Bin. This is going to get oppressive incredibly quickly, and flash forward for Knight. Remember, HongQ's got no egg. This could be a big difference maker so low.
Oh, no, he's dead.
Knight
No.
steps one step out of line.
Knight walks up a little too far. Shun is going to get zoned off by the stun flying his direction. He's not going to be able to get the return kill, but still going back to that top lane play. Bin now with a 2-0 start on the Gwen, a champion that historically isn't the strongest in the laning phase, now has 2 kills worth of gold into their back pocket, punishing that flash and that wave bouncing back after the initial kill on top side. Like we said, it's the return kill for JDG, but it feels like the impact of BLG getting 2 kills over to Bin is just so much more.
Gwen was definitely drafted to take over this game, and the nice thing is that Shun's playing around Bin like he can take over this game. This play in the jungle, though, does put Shun in a bit of an awkward position, as unfortunately, the bot lane priority continues to go the way of JDG. Bin, again, caught in the top side. Can't do too much about it. Grim Deliverance does keep him up for now, though. He's actually, hold on, teleporting out of here.
That's expensive. I mean, he just loses all of the... Yes, he still has 1,000 gold. He still has his 2 kills. He's in the middle of using his ultimate. He survives, but now I kind of want to look at the play... where we're going to get into a replay. Okay, I wanted to see if Zahen was going to be able to hit this turret, because that is one way that we can see Xiaoxu get back into this. Really fancy feat coming in from Knight, but that slow, the last tick of it. He's looking for one last auto, and then you're in the middle of 4 minions, right? So... a really good play. Yep, Danny. Palm to forehead.
Yup.
It happens. Oh my. Come on.
You'd almost think this was another replay, but no, it's just the game plan for BLG.
Revive.
We'll see how much he's able to continue with this. It's not a huge revive for Xiaoxu in terms of the HP, so he still has to walk this one out, but he will actually be able to get the full walk out and survive. Drawing 2 people up to the top side, that's big.
Yeah, JDG, they still got a plate in top side, so it doesn't completely erase the gold, but at least gets some bit back here for Xiaoxu. And in the bottom lane, we're seeing another lead open up here for Gala and Vampire, who've now forced On and Viper off of another wave from this lane, already getting 2 plates early on. Really good looks, and a much different in consideration to what we saw from the early parts of this series.
And frankly, I think Gala, even in the first time these teams met in the playoffs, I think Gala has been so good at just being able to find CS leads over Viper. We haven't seen a ton of action befall the Rift so far, as I say that, and immediately On goes in, pops the barrier from Gala, but yeah, just slow CS leads have always been built up here for Gala, which has allowed those gold leads to balloon even further once we start getting a little bit more bloodthirsty around the map.
I'm really excited to see the first team fight around this Kalista Renata. There's an opportunity for JDG to blow the game wide open with a good bailout and hostile takeover. Vampire can have Lulu-like impact in this game, perhaps even greater, but we're going to have to see it converted in a coordinated team fight, something that we have yet to receive the privilege of. Dragon up in 3 minutes, the possibility for a contest there.
And we talked about the breakpoint for Wukong being that level 6, and he's level 7 now, hasn't really been able to impact the map. I'm actually surprised that all of those top lane visits that Xun has paid toward Bin, the Wukong wasn't able to really react to any of them. Now, though, he might be able to, as he is on the top side, get some payback for his top laner, or just section off around these grubs. And 2 objectives in the hands of JDG this early on, I think, would be absolutely massive for allowing them to control the pace of this game.
A problem point that JDG will run into later on is because they are a little bit shorter range, they really want to try to take these grubs away, giving a Gwen and a Ryze the side lane. Oh.
Supreme display of talent just makes that unplayable, unfortunately. But on the Bryce side, we got all 3 grubs, so all good.
There we go. All right. I was going to say side laning is always a potential here for BLG. It was a strength that we saw them lean on during the playoffs, but here in this series, it has kind of just been roll over your opponents in the early game, and then everything else just kind of fixes itself at that point. So another kill there for Xiaoxu, onto Xiaoxu. Already a completed Rift Maker at 10 minutes here for Bin.
Yeah.
He has been so excellent here in this series.
Absolutely brutal for the continuation of the lane phase for Xiaoxu on this Zahen. Bro has a Phage and basically nothing else. That Null Magic Mantle is not going to do anything.
Nope.
But JDG, I do think to find a silver lining for them here, despite Xiaoxu having a really rough time in the laning phase, we still see Gala in control of bot lane, and also those grubs being secured by JunJia does mean that even if Bin gets a solo kill, not having those grubs means that he's not going to be able to farm nearly as much plate gold off of them.
I think my concern here is we all remember the Gnar game from Bin, right?
Yeah.
I'm concerned we see that happen, but on a catastrophic scale. Because Gwen will do that to you. Gwen will do that to your entire team. And if Bin... There's no answer to Bin in the form of JunJia or Xiaoxu in these fights. If they can't step up and deal with Gwen, Gala certainly can't.
Which one was scarier, Gwen or Gnar for Bin, or the Mbessa game in Game 1? Because that was a big clapping happening up from the lady up in top herself. So I'm happy with where kind of both teams are. I think if you're BLG, you're excited about the fact that you have an 1100 golding, and a lot of that is on Bin. If you're JDG, you're saying, look, we picked some scaling lanes, especially on the top side of the map. Zahen is not the biggest laner in the world, and we got ourselves the first dragon of the game alongside those 3 grubs, which is going to help us blow open turrets later in the game. I am tentatively okay with this. They're now pulling Bin over because they want to fight for this dragon and stop any kind of stacking.
Teleport is going to have to get here. Vampire, however, uses the hostile takeover a bit too early, and it hits 0 people. That's not going to be available for this fight should it happen, and Xun wants to make it happen. Supreme display of talent comes out, chunks JunJia to half health and forces the clone out of him. JDG aren't taking this dragon. I don't know if BLG are, but JDG ain't.
Now, Bin shows up, and they're like, nope, okay, guys, we're leaving. Bye-bye.
Not needed, but oh boy, this is bad.
Remember, no Supreme display of talent here is actually playable for the JDG bot lane. They deny Dragon for now and might be able to keep doing it. Gala's got a pretty healthy lead, and now there's no quickness on.
Yeah, so BLG not really there with the engage shield, but that's not going to matter.
We just keep stepping up, and we keep going forward. Vampire will fall, but Gala answers that back. Takes out Xun. And it's a quick reversal of fortunes for JDG. I mean, they do lose their support, but they took out the jungler, and we're all the way back at Dragon that JDG can absolutely snag.
Guys, and I hate to pull up an aside, but Gwen was literally fighting Xiaoxu underneath, in between the turrets here. He was completely proxy farming him as well.
Yeah, that's
tough.
That's pretty rough, buddy, but still, JDG going to be able to get the second dragon of the game, so they keep that stacking alive. And really good, again, recognition there from JunJia to start up that objective. After On, even though you lose your support, On is really the only way that you can start up a lot of these fights. This is something that we talked about in the draft, where Rakan really is your big go button as BLG. So without that ultimate present, it's very hard for them to walk in to a lot of these contested spaces, so they have to surrender that second Drake, and JDG, despite having difficulties on the top side, are making up for it with their activities on the bot side.
Remember, this all started with them trying to find a pick on a vampire. He uses his ultimate, and then there's no play there for JDG. But because BLG, instead of going for an objective, which we have seen in this series already, prioritizing the kill so that they can then try to play with a numbers advantage, they lose out on the dragon. And that's kind of important, right? Like, we're talking about this JDG comp as something that's going to scale later on into the game. Sure, it's still a 1,500 gold lead here for Bin. It's basically almost an entire level between him and his opponent. I still like this JDG draft and kind of the options that it gets as the game goes on.
BLG definitely have threats, but yeah, JDG, they've got a perfectly functional composition of their own, as you highlight, perhaps even more than that. BLG are continuing to stay grouped up as three, though. Xun really benefiting from his combination with On, as we mentioned earlier. And Xun's been playing quite an aggressive Qiyana game. He's got full vision on JunJia here and can go for a blue steal. Will go for it, but JunJia smites that away. And no harm, no foul.
Okay. Herald, maybe? Guys, are we just going to sit around this objective again like we did in Game 2 when we had the... Or Game 1 where we had the Pantheon? All right, finally.
We got to be really quick about starting this up. We've got priority. We've also got Bin moving yet again to reinforce the rest of his team in case this ends up being a scrap. Xiaoxu also no teleport, so this is a 4v5.
Bin's just clearing midway for right now. JDG are going to have to go for a smite steal. JunJia actually moves forward, but gets trumped by the quickness. Bin's come in on the side, and he's all over Gala right now. Is forced back into the river, but Rift Herald, meanwhile, will go down to BLG. No kills on either side yet, and JDG managed to back off. They don't get the Rift Herald, but they get bot lane tower. The first tower of the game going to Xiaoxu.
I think that's extremely expensive, and they're going to be able to hit this plate in mid. I think HongQ should still be fine. He has flash.
Now he's going to be able to get away from this as well. BLG, despite getting the objective, kind of feel like they're playing on a knife's edge.
Yeah, they are really trying to squeeze as much gold as they possibly can on this play, and yeah, credit over to JDG. I mean, even though they aren't the ones that end up getting the Herald, I still think the disengage, I thought that could have been a disastrous play for JDG if they played that disengage wrong and weren't able to all get themselves out, but they managed to escape, and like you said, Ulk, it's a really expensive play just for the Herald, though. This Herald will definitely buy them time in the next minute or so, because this will allow them to take control of mid or bot wherever they choose to place it. And JDG are going to have to surrender bot side river control because of that. So Soul Point going to be very difficult for JDG to come by unless a blunder from here, or unless a blunder comes from BLG with this Herald.
But now it comes into question with the patterns that we have seen from BLG this playoffs. Do we think that they are more than willing to drop this next dragon to try to play for someone else's advantage? I mean, you still have Herald, like you're mentioning. If we blow up 2 turrets in topside here, that could potentially make Bin even stronger than he already is, or even the Rise if we decide to play for it. So I think BLG, in a perfect world, I would love for them to go for this dragon and contest their opponents, but knowing them, it is more likely than not that they're just going to try to use this Herald and try to grab plates and smash some structures.
While Xun walks around with it, he's kind of at a loss for where exactly to go. Xiaoxu's been playing a whole lot safer top lane. Neither tower there has gone down yet. There's, of course, the option, but you'd love to crack mid-lane turret. Something that you actually could do as a distraction for the dragon that's coming up.
Yep.
BLG could trade mid-lane tier 1 for dragon if they want to.
And HongQ not really able to step up here. Anivia is prided on being able to not only push waves really quickly, but also with that ultimate control space. And it seems like JDG are a little bit afraid to allow HongQ to walk up here and use that ultimate offensively to zone control around this dragon, simply because they don't know where Knight is, so they don't want to expose a lot of their damage dealers.
They see him now. Bin does have teleport. Xiaoxu is just going to walk. This is going to be a 5-on-5 for the game.
JunJia backs off, and there goes the teleport from Bin. Nobody from JDG wanting to step up to that, but Did a little bit of an ultimate on top of it, just to make it a little uncomfortable for BLG. This scuttle belonging to BLG is a small victory, but they need a whole lot more. Gala needs room to step up, and Knight's going on the flank, making this sort of pincer onto the JDG backline. Dragon's at about half HP. We've got a Ripped Herald out, and the knockup coming down from that. Out goes the Supreme Display of Talent. Dragon goes over to BLG. On is in the backline. Double knockup, and Bin is all over it. He's snapping up Gala and shutting down JDG. Xiaoxu does manage to find a big bring deliverance. Out comes the Blade Caller. But Bin, chasing him down now, should have no problem with his opposite number.
Okay. Yeah, that's a huge win here for BLG. Not only do they grab all of the kills on this play, they get the Dragon, and they'll continue to compound their gold lead. The Herald lives during all of this, so now it's going to be plates on the bottom side. We'll take a look at this fight. I think HongQ, kind of to what Quax has been mentioning, maybe feeling without the frontline requisite there, can't feel comfortable to stand forward, doesn't want to lose his flash. I feel like if he uses his wall in this game, it is so game-breaking, but not an available play for them. Bin gets right under the backline and completely destroys this Kalista Renata. And now it's, again, 3,000 gold. We're another 5 minutes away from a potential soul point coming on through for JDG. These are all good measures that BLG will be taking.
Absolutely. And BLG, I feel like it's just going to get worse with time for JDG when you're looking at the enemy team, because we're going to have the Gwen continuing to scale, we're going to have the Xayah continuing to get items and be more difficult to actually latch onto if JDG do decide to look for a flank. And then there's also Knight, right? I think now that we have gotten that Archangels, and now that we also have had that Roa, and we're at, I believe, 6 stacks, that Actualizer has to be a very big spike that we keep our eyes on. It is what makes Rise go from a little blue boy to Megamind incarnate. This man is just too strong at that point.
I don't know if Megamind is super threatening. He ends up being a big softie at the end.
We can't be Megamind slandering. That guy is the GOAT.
Yeah. What? Okay, Ulk. Do we have to have a discussion here?
Can we just get the L3? Just put the L3 on the screen, guys. Thank you. Okay. we're talking about Knight. We're already talking about the Rise. We might have to hold this as JunJia. Oh.
Does actually get away from the Supreme Display of Talent. That is big. Big cooldown out of BLG. JDG again looking for a fight, but they don't really have the right to start one. They're engaged without JunJia moving forward. A bit lackluster, even though HongQ's doing his best.
They also have control of mid. BLG, though, they're going to look for a fight.
On. Does find HongQ. We've still got the availability for HongQ to live, in the hostile takeover actually buys a lot of space for JDG. Gala sends his support over the wall, finds a double knockup, but no follow-up on it. On's still getting out of this as well, and I cannot believe we trade those cooldowns and get nothing.
I love this, though. We have Dragon spawning in 2 minutes, and now look at BLG's timers. No flash on either Shun, Knight, or On. This opens up a big window for JDG to be able to play through, and a much-needed win here. They're on the precipice of trying to start a reverse sweep versus BLG here in the finals, and literally it's going to take every single win possible. I mean, HongQ even ticks over to level, gets all 10 stacks of his Rod of Ages right before the start of that fight, too. So this Anivia is starting to pick up some steam.
Yeah, Anivia is starting to scale, but it kind of alludes back to what we said in the last fight. If HongQ isn't able to be free in a lot of these fights, especially, he will actually, I think, have that flash by the time this next Dragon comes up. So he will have that defensive summoner spell, but he still needs to be playing up with his team. He still needs to be throwing down these ultimates as zoning tools, making it difficult for BLG to test a lot of these spaces, because we didn't see that in the most recent Dragon fight, and it felt like it's what led to BLG being able to group up together and find that fight win last time.
His counter Knight has actually been pretty smart about the way that he's playing on Rise. He's able to find some nice flanks like we saw. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Oh, it's the...
He's a blue boy.
It's the blue... Oh, my God.
Yep.
Not even looking at the L3. And he's like, is that crazy? I thought his Rise was good.
It is that good. It's so good. We're talking about Knight in the finals. This is his win rate in series. He has 11 LPL finals, 6 of them wins, and he has won 5 out of the last 6 finals he has been in. And there's a reason why we talk about this player as one of, if not potentially the best LPL player we have ever seen.
Yeah, and his lips were even a little bit more... Is that Euron Greyjoy? I don't know if there are any Game of Thrones readers in the chat, but I hope the few that there are in the chat appreciate the reference.
That last book's not coming out, bro. It's not happening.
He's got 2 books left. He's got 2 books left.
I can't even read, so that's why I do League of Legends. We got Dragon started here. BLG are first to the play.
Remember, on no flash for this. It's going to stymie his engage options a little bit, but suppose that if BLG just kill the dragon, it simply does not matter. JDG back right off. Dragons are evened up, and while JDG still have some decent scaling options, you had mentioned it, Quacks, this game does feel like BLG are just getting scarier and scarier, and JDG are definitely taking their foot off the pedal.
Yeah, they definitely are. It is also just going to be more difficult, I feel, for them to extend the leads of the lanes which were successful in the early game. We're already starting to see that really big lead that Gala had over Viper. That has shrunk down to less than 100 now. So it's very, I feel, difficult for this Kalista as the game goes on to maneuver around these fights with BLG just being that much more threatening and that gold mattering less and less from the laning phase.
This is where we do the little bit of a handoff, you know? Kalista, Renata, you've taken care of the early game. You did your job of checks, notes, getting the first 2 dragons, and then you get, what? Now it's Anivia has to kind of take over. But Anivia doesn't have the same 3-item power spike that Knight is going to have on this Rise. I mean, already has the Blasting Wand. I'm assuming, yeah, now has himself the Luden, or the Lost Chapter, so is getting even closer to that actualizer, and that's more than likely going to be done on time for the next dragon spawning, the 5th one of the game. So this is where I want to see JDG start to pick up the pace. Anivia plus Kalista on top of something like Baron. This could be an easy rip for them to find.
And they've got an Anivia with mid lane tower up as well, which is, well, not an itemization power spike, definitely something that Anivia makes really good use of, being able to clear waves incredibly quickly. My fear is that that could change, and that could change in the next few minutes. BLG do shove another wave into this tower, and it is getting weaker by the second. As soon as HongQ loses this, JDG lose a lot of map presence.
They absolutely do, and JDG just really not able to find a lot of these picks. This is something that we actually haven't really touched on with the BLG comp, but on top of the Rakan, a lot of these other champions are super duper squishy, right? I mean, now that Knight has 2 items as well, he's very tanky, so he's very hard to actually burst down. But then you've also got Xayah with their ultimate. You've got Bin with the Hallowed Mist and their own little dash. You've got Shun with his little dash. So there's just so many different escape tools for the BLG champions to take in order to thwart JDG attempting to overload to try and get a pick that JDG just haven't really tried it.
Gets to walk up to this turret. Actually could see it fall right here. BLG managed to claim the mid lane tier 1 at 27 minutes, and that changes things for JDG in a huge way. Forced back into their own jungle, perhaps not theirs for very long, as Shun even gets to walk in here and lay down a bit of vision. Now it's BLG's control over the Baron pit.
Legendary stance there from Viper. He notices. Oh!
Knock up from On. This is big. And following that up with the supreme display of talent, HongQ, even through the egg, does not get to come back. BLG pick the mid laner, and they look for more. They look for the Baron.
Yeah, Viper stood on the mid wave and forced JunJia out, made him use his flash, and now JDG are going to have to answer. Baron almost gone.
Still got hostile takeover in the pit. That can be deadly, but look at Bin walking things out, taking JunJia to half health. He's in the pit. JunJia wants the Baron, but it's too high HP. He's going to go down. And we look at the rest of JDG. We look at Gala trying desperately to make something happen, and it is for nothing. He will fall. Vampire, last alive, will be run down, and BLG, they'll pick up a delayed ace and the Baron to boot.
The window was closing, it was slowly shutting in the faces of JDG, but at the last second, BLG take that window, they slam it onto their fingers, And this game just got a whole of a heck lot more difficult for JDG to come back in. Looking at the replay on with a beautiful angle. They get the pick on to HongQ. It's still 4 members alive, but at this point, the zoning and the ability to, you know, whittle them down with the Anivia ult just isn't there. You don't have the chip damage necessary without fully committing yourself. The range of this comp is the biggest kryptonite at this point without your Anivia present, and it forces JDG to fully index into trying to steal this Baron, to fully commit into this fight, and they get taken down.
Yeah, I said I was a fan of different things here from JDG's comp, but it's clear not only with HongQ just having less influence in this game, and again, this Kalista Renata just not having the range or really the damage to deal with BLG's carries at this point. It's becoming ever more clear that kind of with every single moment, the game is getting further and further away from Jindong.
And a big...
Even now forced to give up that tier 2. I mean, the Baron is going to do some serious damage, especially into an Anivia composition.
And the big thing about HongQ, the one that kind of set him behind, is hang on, is looking for an engage.
Uh-oh.
If they win a fight here, they win the game, and that's the threat that BLG have right now. JunJia does rocket on forward, but it is just to get BLG out of their base. We have not seen the big cyclone engages that JDG need to buy space for Gala. Instead, BLG taking what they want every time.
And a big reason why HongQ really didn't have the influence that we saw from him in game number 3 was because of Knight. Knight was doing a really good job at kind of going band for band with HongQ in the laning phase, and a Knight, a player, one of the most accomplished in the LPL. A win here would be his 7th first place. An absolutely legendary stat for a legendary player that so many consider to be the GOAT of the LPL at this point in time, but still trying to reach those new heights that have never been reached before.
Wow, so cute. Using the Baron with the Realm Warp to get the last tier 1 or tier 2 out. A lot of gold here, 12,000 gold lead here for BLG.
And that's just as the Baron expires, plus 6k during the course of that play for BLG. Every lane suffered, and it is a game that, I'll be honest, this is BLG's final game if they play it right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just looking at this game and just the story of this series so far. We had some questions about whether or not JDG as the best team fighting team here in the league, about their objective setups, but if you are going to be down 5,000 to 8,000 gold in every early game, BLG have really cleaned up their act. And I gotta say, again, for JDG, they played a lot of 5-game series. I think maybe some of that fatigue is starting to catch up with them with the multiple back-to-back series that they've had to have with very little break in between.
Keep the hands warm. Absolutely.
This lower third just representing that from teams that were both in the upper finals, those that come back from the lower finals, they end up never winning a championship. At least historically has not been the case. And again, we haven't had a reverse sweep in the grand finals of the LPL since 2017. So I don't think history is really going to be made here today, except for putting another crown, another star on the BLG jersey when we're looking at LPL titles.
Knight just making sure to continue to apply the pressure to JDG. He's controlling 2 lanes and letting the rest of BLG sit in top, threaten this last inhibitor, this last bit of safety that JDG have between them and really the end of the game. JunJia getting a little desperate, is going to force the Featherstorm out of Viper, the flash out of him as well. On goes on a peel journey, but the hostile takeover connects, and it's a big kill for JunJia. Jun does come in to try and reverse things.
Knight is ending the
game.
game!
Buys time. Knight is he's just focused on the one thing, the win for BLG, and Bin is turning things around topside as well. Is there a place where BLG truly lose?
Maybe. They're getting the teleport back. They're going to try to end it. Gets canceled.
Wait, they canceled it!
Xiaoxu, please.
He can do this. And HongQ can clear waves, surely. No!
Knight!
He can't step up to Knight!
Knight
is
gonna
literally ending the game!
HongQ, stop him!
literally do something, anything!
Oh!
Knight!
Egg!
He pops the egg, and Knight, by force, will take his
Oh my
next
God.
title. Xiaoxu and Vampire trying to stand in his way. One more auto will
Oh!
do it. And with the Realm Warp for style, Knight once again crowns himself king of the LPL.
What the hell was the end of that game, man? Like, come on. We're trying to get last second autos on the Nexus. We're doing a long chase. We're even canceling TPs.
We got the fist bumps coming up from the other BLG. Give Knight a hug. That bro just ended the game. That guy just gave you your next trophy in the already extensive lineup that BLG have managed to collect as an organization, and all of it, or a large portion of it rather, in tribute to Knight as a player, one of the most storied, successful ones in the LPL, yet again will raise the first place trophy.
This is, I mean, what an end to that game, especially with the way that we were talking about Knight coming into this. He literally just goes and ends the game by himself. But man, the journey there, I will say, this was definitely not a Knight by himself angle. We had an incredible amount of support and threat thrown out by the rest of the members of BLG, and they all worked their butts off for this victory.
And Wenbo's just standing there. I think the story of this team, this split, was so strange. I mean, we went from one of the undefeated teams very early on. Then there was that mid-split struggle. It seemed like parts of the team just weren't working. At a certain point, we had Bin literally leave the team for what was apparently 4 hours. We had a scare as to whether or not they were even going to be able to come back with Bin. They go through the playoffs. They go 3-0 in their first 2 series, 5 games versus JDG, and clap them 3-1 here in the finals. But now I want to see more. From here on out, the expectation has been set. You already have a super team. You've already won 1 split. I need to see more trophies from this team. I think if the LPL community and the international community are going to come to fear the BLG team yet again.
Yeah, and BLG